Hello guys, welcome back to the MMASucka channel and welcome back to episode 6 of Rescoring Controversial Decisions. Last episode was Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz 2 at UFC 202, and this will be rescoring the UFC 273 three-round fight between Gilbert Burns and Khamzat Chimaev. Now, this was a big one. For a little bit of context, it's the second Khamzat Chimaev fight in this series. Obviously, the first one I'll link down below to the entire playlist. His first one was against Usman. At the time, Chimaev's 4-0 in the UFC, having just submitted Li Jingliang in dominant fashion. Gilbert Burns recently bounced back from his title fight loss to Kamaru Usman, beating Stephen Wonderboy Thompson via unanimous decision. I decided to bump this one forward, having Chimaev again on the channel on the series, because it comes off the back of him just being recently, I suppose, re-announced to be facing Robert Whittaker later on in the year. Let's hope that this time that one goes ahead. But now let's jump straight into the fight itself. Round one. Khamzat Chimaev takes control early. He pressures Burns back to the cage. He throws a big straight and connects with Burns, but the Brazilian lands a good check left hook. Remember that. Gilbert Burns had already landed a good check left hook. As this exchange happens, Khamzat Chimaev drops to his knees in search of a takedown, but Burns digs the underhooks and defends well. So Chimaev doesn't get scored for that. It's just a change of positions. There's no real damage been done on either side here. A few shots are exchanged in the clinch, but Chimaev manages to score a takedown and land a few good shots to Burns from a dominant position. Now, this is where we score it. He drops to the ground, he drops for the takedown, he scores the takedown. It's a change of position, but then he lands a few shots to Gilbert Burns from the dominant position, causing a little bit of damage. You know, that's a tick in the box of Khamzat Chimaev. He gets into an even more dominant position, but then makes his way to Gilbert Burns' back. Burns tries to Granby roll, and Khamzat decides to stand up, land some leg kicks to a downed Gilbert Burns. But when the fight makes its way back to the feet, Burns lands a big leg kick and it stumbles Chimaev. So Chimaev, at the moment, you know, he's landed the takedown, he's landed a few good shots, he tries to take the back, Burns defends well. Khamzat is allowing Burns to get back to his feet, which is him controlling where the fight's going. Deciding where the fight's taking place, where in the octagon, whether it be on the feet, on the floor. He lands a couple of good leg kicks, but Burns stumbles Chimaev with a leg kick. The two-man exchange, but neither man really lands anything clean. Khamzat throws a leg kick, but Burns returns with a big counter straight, which backs Chimaev up. Burns lands a good jab through the guard of Chimaev. You know, he is landing big on Chimaev. Chimaev waves forward now with big hooks. However, they only really land on the guard of Burns. They don't do any real damage. Burns then throws 3 1-2 combinations. However, none land clean and they just land on the guard. Chimaev reacts by throwing 2 hooks, but Burns counters with a check right hook, which lands and lands big. Chimaev lands a big leg kick, is what it is. A body kick by Chimaev. It does land. It's not the most damaging shot. It's not the most damaging body kick we've seen ever in the UFC. You know, we see guys absolutely folded by body kicks, but Chimaev does land a body kick, which lands slightly, but then he throws a strong jab behind the body kick, and it drops Burns, and it hurts Gilbert Burns. He lands good, dominant, damaging, and that's the vital word, as we know now, guys, damaging ground and pound. Burns tries to respond with hammer fists off his back. However, you know, they're not doing any damage. He's on his back. He's really just defending, but he's just doing enough to stay in the fight. Burns is bleeding badly from an elbow that landed on the ground. It was 10-9 to Chimaev in what was a close round before he drops Gilbert Burns. And that drop at the end of the first round makes it a clear 10-9 for Chimaev. For me, no questions asked. 10-9 Khamzat Chimaev. He's got all the momentum heading into that second round. But, and it's a big but, never rule out Gilbert Burns. Never rule out the experience of Gilbert Burns. Round 2 begins. Nothing much happens in the first minute until the sort of last 10 seconds of that first minute, where Burns lands big on Chimaev. Burns is finding his range well in this round, splitting the guard of Chimaev multiple times with straight right hands. Burns throws out a jab and Chimaev counters well with a good rear straight. Burns lands a good combo of 2 hard leg kicks and a strong straight right, and he wobbles Chimaev. Without a doubt, at the moment, this round is trending towards being a Gilbert Burns round. He's the one that's thrown the more damaging shots. He wobbles Chimaev. It's really good work by Gilbert Burns. Khamzat does continue to pressure forwards, throwing multiple combos, but landing very few damaging shots. This is a really big moment. Khamzat Chimaev dummies a jab and throws the uppercut behind it. However, as he does that, Gilbert Burns steps back and lands a sweet front hand hook. So Khamzat Chimaev throwing a jab, tried to land the uppercut. Gilbert Burns steps back, lands the hook off the front hand, and he drops Khamzat Chimaev to all fours. He scores a knockdown. Let me just double check on the UFC stats whether that actually was recorded as a knockdown, because it should be recorded as a knockdown. Like I said, he drops to all fours, and that's not a voluntary, that's not a voluntary move for any man or woman in the octagon. So it's actually not been scored as a knockdown on UFCstats.com, which is crazy to me because, like I said, it's let's be honest, I don't think Khamzat Chimaev slipped to the point where Gilbert Burns is, just helped him on his way down. He's been caught with a shot and he's fallen on the floor. Like I said, Khamzat Chimaev then pops back to his feet, but Burns gets him in the clinch position, lands several uppercuts in close, followed by a three-punch combination, landing all three of those shots on Chimaev's chin. The Brazilian's going for the finish, but Chimaev rallies, manages to land a big 1-2, but Burns counters with another hook over the shot of Chimaev. Chimaev continues to pressure forward, gets the fight to the clinch. However, Burns utilizes the position more, landing uppercuts and a big elbow. So remember, we scored damage first. Irrespective of the fact that Chimaev is the one that initiated the clinch, Burns is landing the more damaging shots. Burns lands a series of big shots which back up Khamzat. The jab and the straight down the pipe by Burns have now busted Khamzat's nose wide open. He's bleeding from the nose now. The last 10 seconds of the round see Khamzat seemingly wobble Burns, look to wade forwards in continuous pressure. However, Burns lands a huge counter hook, which hurts and wobbles Khamzat. He then lands another good hook behind the ear, which again drops Khamzat Chimaev. So Gilbert Burns wasn't accredited with any of the two knockdowns that he actually scored in this round. However, I personally scored them as two knockdowns. Burns throws a kick to the downed opponent, but luckily it doesn't land because that would have been probably an instant DQ. Khamzat shoots for the legs of Burns, who lands 5 big strikes on Khamzat. Khamzat does get the takedown, but he gets the takedown as the round ends. It's a 10-9 for me. He dropped Khamzat Chimaev twice. Sorry, 10-9 to Gilbert Burns for me. He dropped Khamzat Chimaev twice, landed the bigger shots throughout. It's a clear 10-9 round. There's definitely a call for it to be a 10-8 round because of the more, he landed 2 knockdowns. He landed the more damaging strikes throughout the entire round. And a lot of the, he busted Khamzat Chimaev open. His nose is bleeding, heading back to his corner. But I think Khamzat just landed enough shots to prevent a 10-8 round. So heading into the third and final round, I've put on my notes, it's the vital round. I've got Khamzat Chimaev scoring 1 round, the first round. I've got Gilbert Burns scoring winning the second round. Both men have been hurt. Both men have been, bruised and bloodied. Both men have been dropped. But Burns has got the momentum heading into this final round. This is the most adversity we've seen Khamzat Chimaev face in his career, let alone just in the UFC. How does he respond? The first minute of the third round sees both men just exchange jabs in the middle of the octagon. However, Khamzat Chimaev lands the only follow-up shot to those jabs. Chimaev backs Burns up. However, the Brazilian shoots for a takedown. He fails on the attempt, but it's a fun wrestling exchange. There's no score as there was very little damage landed. Chimaev then, continues to look to back Burns up to put his back on the fence. He lands a series of jabs and a big straight right hand. He works the body and forces Burns to shell up and look to separate and get space between the two men. It's not a good visual for the judges if you're the one shelling up and looking to kind of not run away, but looking to, like I said, get separation from your opponent. Blood is now running down the face of Gilbert Burns from one of the shots landed by Khamzat Chimaev. Again, not a good visual for a judge. Chimaev is dominating the octagon now. He's forcing Burns back up against the fence, and he's just pop-shotting his opponent. Burns responds with a head kick and a big hook. He then lands a series of big hooks on Chimaev, backing Chimaev up. Final 10 seconds of the round, the two men slug it out of the fight. The final 10 seconds of the fight, the two men slug it out. Khamzat throws a running knee, and Burns looks to teep kick him. The momentum of Khamzat knocked Gilbert Burns down. It's not a knockdown, as he's already off balance himself. That final round, I think, is a pretty clear round to score. It's 10-9 for Khamzat Chimaev. Equal damage. There wasn't a lot of damage done by either man, but Khamzat dominated the space. He largely decided where the fight took place. He did land the bigger shots, although they weren't damaging shots for either man. He did land the bigger shots, and therefore I've scored it a 10-9 to Khamzat Chimaev, and overall 29-28 in favor of Balls Khamzat Chimaev, which is actually the same way as all of the judges scored it, 29-28 to Khamzat Chimaev. Now, this one was requested by someone that has watched one of the other videos, and I can understand why. It was a very close fight, but when you rewatch it and you consider that, we scored damage first, I think it's a pretty clear Khamzat Chimaev fight. Next on rescoring controversial decisions, we've got another 3-rounder against a former bantamweight champion, Petr Yan, and a future bantamweight champion, Sean O'Malley. But that's on the next episode, guys. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment down below if you disagree with me, if you think Gilbert Burns won. Thank you for your time, and I'll catch you on the next episode.